Hello and welcome back to Parc Fermé Parlay with Kieran Downey. You're currently witnessing a much more alive and awake Kieran than the Kieran you are about to see, who was up at 2:30 this morning to watch the Ford Racing live stream where we got the livery reveals for Red Bull and Racing Bulls. So glad I didn't decide to do the whole Ford Racing event. I'm glad I kept it to just the Formula One stuff. So I wasn't awake for the entire night. The live stream was good. I did enjoy it. It was a lot for that time in the morning. It was a lot of talking, and there was a whole augmented reality bit at one point. I kind of tapped out on that. And the actual livery bits were very, very short. I understand that there's obviously a huge thing when the regulations change. This is a new partnership with Ford, and that will be like a big focus for them. But in knowing that a lot of people will probably have been watching for the liveries, did feel like we could have used maybe a little bit more, especially when it gets to VCARB, but we'll come and talk about that in a minute. One thing I want to preference by saying before we get into my live reactions at 3:30, 4 o'clock this morning, whilst it looks like the Red Bull and Racing Bull liveries were revealed on their 2026 Challengers, they were released on show cars, so I wouldn't spend too much time overthinking the cars out with just the liveries. We did have to sit through a lot of noise from Ford and Red Bull to get to the liveries, which, listen, I understand it's a Ford Racing event that showcased more than just the Formula One side, and as I said, there's huge stuff with the regulations and this partnership and everything. There was some bits I could have done without, notably Dax Shepard, but that is just a bit of a personal preference. Again, the whole augmented reality bit, I kind of tapped out. That was when I went and got my second coffee. And I think that the launch and the live stream showcased just how seriously Ford wants its presence to be within Formula One. They're not here to mess around. But anyway, enough from me just now. I'm going to hand over to a Kieran that was very sleepy at 2:30 this morning, getting ready to watch the live stream. And I will be back after our live reactions, where we will play some more videos and we'll do a bit more of an in-depth look at both of the liveries. Good morning, everyone. It is 2:45 here in Scotland. We are 15 odd minutes away from the launch of the Red Bull Racing Bull liveries. There's not many things I would get up at 3 a.m. for, but apparently this is one of them. This is my first coffee. I imagine I'm going to be needing a lot more. I'm going to enjoy this, and I will catch us when the live stream starts. All right, here we go. First up, we've got Red Bull. Oh, this. What a reveal! That is pretty sick. That is pretty sick. Okay. Oh, it's shiny. It's not matte. God, I'm so used to seeing matte. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Oh, she's gorge. Now that is sexy. That is an old school, I'm thinking sort of Seb era looking livery. It's got a touch of vintage, a touch of new. Stunning. Oh, I'm so glad glossy paint is back. I'm so glad gloss is back. Oh, I've missed gloss. No, I'm a big fan of that. A very big fan of this livery, I have to say. I'm sorry, the biggest thing for me is just the gloss. I'm so done with seeing matte F1 cars that having a nice glossy livery has really just sealed it for me. This is beautiful. As I said, kicking it back to the old sort of Seb era. I'm pretty sure I've got photos of that car on my phone from when I went to the factory. I think it's stunning. Big fan of this. Big fan. That is gorge. That is gorge. Right, next up, VCARB. What do we got here? Okay, similar vibe to last year. Loving the white. Ooh. I'm seeing a bit more blue. Ooh, the blue and the black. I'm a fan. I quite like this. Okay, it's a matte car, which I'm not mad about because it's white. I think if it was any other colour, I'd want maybe a little bit of gloss because that Red Bull livery was with the gloss. But the white, I do like the car. I think we're going to have to look at it up close in a bit. I do like their new race suits. I like that it's just a bit of an evolution from last year. I do like it. I do like it. But I do think we're going to have to look at both of them a bit closer because it's been quite, quick and snappy, which I understand. It's a live event, although this is pre-recorded. I'm going to go and look at all the details of the Red Bull livery and the VCARB livery, and then I'll be back later on because it's currently 4 a.m. So I'm going to go and catch a nap, and then I'll be back with thoughts, feelings, everything like that on both of the liveries. Okay, so that was a very tired Kieran reacting to the liveries at 3:30, 4 o'clock, I think VCARB went live. And now we're going to look at each livery and sort of break it down a little bit, give our thoughts, give our feelings, and sort of look at them a little bit more in depth. We'll start with Red Bull. I have to say that I think there was actually a lot of old school Red Bull about this event, even though it was a Ford racing event. Incorporating the plane into the car's unveiling. Red Bull's always been that sort of bold, extreme sports, and we always have quite crazy things with them, so it was quite nice to see them sort of going back to that. In another genuine surprise, the Red Bull livery is strikingly different to what we've had in recent years. We've got a tweaked colour scheme to the underlying design and the return to the classic Red Bull logo with a white outline on the front wing and the engine bodywork. It's kind of given a sort of back to the future kind of vibe with the revival of the old Red Bull styling that hasn't really been used in Formula One for about 10 years, going back to the older sort of gloss finishes instead of the matte that the team's been so familiar with in recent seasons. And this isn't by mistake. Red Bull has said that this is, very deliberate, and it harks back to a more classic Red Bull racing presence. The revamp of the livery, I also think, comes at a time where it feels even more significant with the departures of Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. It's obviously a new era for the team, and I think that Red Bull wants to make clear that it's going back to its roots and back to being closer to what the main company wants. In recent seasons and years, it's kind of moved away in a more independent direction, and that was definitely something that the current ownership were very disapproving of. And this feels like we're going back to what Red Bull was. In terms of the livery, listen, Red Bull has been innovative in so many ways in Formula One, and it became increasingly frustrating how stagnant and uninspiring its liveries have been for probably about a decade. Probably the splash of purple that we got in 2013 was the last generally interesting livery innovation that we've seen from the team. Thankfully, the team's corrected that with a pretty gorge 2026 livery. One that I must say did actually look better in the renders than it did on the live stream. However, I do think that when it hits track, it's going to look pretty stunned. In terms of the specifics, the shade of blue they've gone for, I think, is much better. It's that sort of lighter Ford-esque blue that's across the side pods and the body of the car. It makes a huge difference. It looks really crisp, especially from the top down. The blue on the front and rear wing end plates is also pretty striking from a side-on angle. I will say that the blue wheel rims probably won't be to everyone's taste, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that they actually have wet tyres fitted, but I think it's quite nice in a year that the teams have the flexibility to design their own wheel rims. The Ford badging, I think, fits in pretty well. It's big enough to be visible, but not big enough that it dominates the whole livery. We've also got a return to the classic Red Bull logo with the white outline on the front wing and the engine bodywork. We've also got the return to glossy paint. Thank God. Something that both myself and Max Verstappen have been wanting for quite some time. The glossy paint kind of takes me back to the Sebastian Vettel era, which I'm not mad about. I loved it back then and I love it now. I'm so over matte cars, so over matte Formula One cars. I just found that they looked a bit dull, whereas the gloss on this just lifts and brightens everything. The only thing I will say about the gloss paint is it's obviously added weight on the car, so I know that they obviously have to have a minimum percentage of the cars painted this year, but then to gloss it as well, are they concerned that they're not going to be competitive, so they might as well look good whilst not fighting at the front? I don't know. I'm hoping not. but the car is gorgeous either way. I love it. I think it's great. I absolutely love it. I love the gloss. I love how the colours pop. I love the old school Red Bull logo. Just the old school vibes of the whole thing. It's, as I said, it's like we're going back to the team's roots. And I love the lighter blue. The whole thing, I think, is just amazing. It's a 10 out of 10 from me, and I can't wait to see it out on track. All right, moving on to Racing Bulls, Red Bull's second team, who also put an appearance at the launch, continuing to be a team that very much feels like is battling an identity crisis. Racing Bulls was very much sitting in the shadow of the main team. The build-up wasn't as much. It was a lot more subdued. It was over and done very quickly. There wasn't as much hype around it. The team was very much back to being presented as a junior team or a talent incubator, as the CEO Peter Bayer put it, leaning very heavily into the young and vibrant creator scene and setting itself up as not your average team. I think the enduring characteristic of that team, of Racing Bulls, through all of its rebrands and different names and everything, is that it's always been one that Red Bull has struggled to know exactly what to do with. And that's ever since Dietrich Mateschitz was leaned on by Bernie Ecclestone to buy the ailing Minardi team. For a team that's supposed to be, fun, vibrant, youthful, and, a bit quirky and really sort of engaging, I think the whole thing was incredibly flat and actually a little bit awkward. I would say Liam Lawson and Arvid Lindblad did their best with some pretty dodgy scripts, particularly when it came to answering the fan questions. There was some social media admin nonsense banter that was, floating around. It never really hit the mark and again just felt quite flat and it was pretty awkward. The Racing Bulls 2026 livery, I mean, I wouldn't call it brand new, but it is a evolution and a new take on the streamlined all white from 2025. We got some additional black and some sleek blue accents, which were a bit of a subtle nod to its partnership with Ford. We've also added a little bit of an extra splash of white to the car by painting the wheel covers white, which I think looked pretty cool. I was a big fan of the Racing Bulls livery in 2025, so I do quite like this. Same as their race suits, it's not a brand new concept, it's just an evolution of what we've seen, and I do like it. I think it'll look great out on track, and I also think in a year where we're going to get a lot of red and a lot of blue, I'm excited to see something that is different, even if it is very, very similar to what we've seen last year. I will say that going into live stream, I actually was prepared and expected to like Racing Bulls more than Red Bull, but then Red Bull lifted that tarp and I saw gloss, I saw vintage old school vibes, and that was the winner for me out of the two, I think. Now that is everything from us. Let us know your thoughts on the Red Bull and Racing Bulls liveries in the comments down below. We'll be back very, very soon. Love you, bye!